First Contact's Price. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of Earth's diplomatic station Artemis, watching the Kilarian vessel approach. Its crystalline structure caught the light of Earth's sun, creating prismatic patterns that danced across the station's reinforced windows. Beautiful, she thought, just like everything else about their supposed allies. The Kilarian collective had appeared in Earth's space 8 months ago, their ships emerging from what they called fold space, a method of faster-than-light travel that made humanity's experimental warp drives look like steam engines in comparison. They came bearing gifts: medical technology that could cure most forms of cancer, energy systems that could power cities with a device the size of a briefcase, and promises of peaceful cooperation. Sarah checked her neural implants chronometer, a piece of modified Kilarian tech that humanity had been allowed to produce under license. The delegation would arrive in 10 minutes. She used that time to review the details that had been keeping her awake for the past 3 months. The Kilarians were perfect, too perfect. Every diplomatic interaction was flawless, every trade deal seemingly beneficial to both parties. Their representatives were unfailingly polite, their cultural attaches endlessly fascinated by human art and music. They even laughed at human jokes, despite having no evolutionary reason to understand Earth humor. Ambassador Chen, her neural implant chimed softly. Admiral Torres requests a moment before the delegation arrives. Sarah touched her temple, activating the secure channel. Go ahead, Admiral. The analysis you requested just came in. You were right. The medical nanites they provided to the Proxima colony. They're collecting data. Not just medical data. They're mapping human neural patterns, studying our decision-making processes. Sarah's jaw tightened, just like the colonies that accepted their education modules. Yes, Mom. But there's more. Remember those power cells they helped us install in the Luna base? They've been transmitting quantum-encrypted signals that our adapted Kilarian sensors couldn't detect, but our own experimental quantum array picked up the echoes. Let me guess, they're building a profile, learning how we think, how we react, what we value. Exactly. The question is, what do we do about it? Sarah watched as the Kilarian ship docked, its crystalline surface shifting to match the station's metal texture. A sign of respect, they claimed, adapting their technology to make humans more comfortable. We do exactly what they're doing, Admiral. We learn, we adapt, and we prepare. Sarah straightened her diplomatic uniform. They think they're studying a primitive species that can be slowly guided into submission. Let them think that. Meanwhile, every piece of technology they give us, every interaction they have with our people, tells us more about them. The Security Council is concerned about the risk, Torres said. If they realize we're onto them. They won't, Sarah interrupted, because we're going to play their game better than they do. Every grateful acceptance of their gifts, every wide-eyed appreciation of their technology. It's all going to feed into their profile of us. A profile that says humans are naive, easily impressed, and too divided to mount any real resistance. The station's AI announced the arrival of the Kilarian delegation. Sarah could see them approaching through the internal cameras, tall, elegant beings with iridescent skin and flowing robes that seemed to defy gravity. Admiral, implement Protocol Silent Watch. Every colony that accepts Kilarian aid gets our new quantum sensors installed covertly. Every piece of their technology we adopt gets analyzed at the molecular level. Most importantly, make sure our own developments stay hidden behind a wall of apparent technological stumbling. Yes, Mom, and if they are planning what we think they're planning. Sarah smiled as the delegation approached her position. Then they'll learn what every power that has underestimated humanity has learned, Admiral. We're very good at turning other people's weapons against them. The door slid open, revealing Ambassador Zerl of the Kilarian Collective, their face arranged in what their cultural database had identified as a human-friendly expression of warmth. Ambassador Chen, Zerl's translator, conveyed their melodious speech. We bring wonderful news. The Galactic Council has approved an expansion of our technology sharing initiative. We believe humanity is ready for the next level of advancement. That's wonderful news, Ambassador Zerl. Sarah beamed, her expression carefully crafted to show exactly the right mix of excitement and grateful humility. Though I hope you'll be patient with us as we learn. You know how we humans can be. Sometimes we need to make mistakes before we truly understand something. Zerl's skin rippled in what their database labeled as pleased agreement. They didn't notice Sarah's neural implant transmitting encrypted data about their physiological responses, adding to the growing human database of Kilarian behavioral patterns. Of course, Ambassador, the collective has endless patience for emerging civilizations. How fortunate for us, Sarah replied, leading them toward the conference room. Behind her practiced diplomatic smile, she added another note to her secure observations. The Kilarians had just made their biggest mistake. They had all the time in the world to implement their plans. And now, thanks to their own overconfidence, so did humanity. The silent conquest. Dr. Marcus Rivera stood in the darkened laboratory beneath Olympus Mons, Mars, watching as the captured Kilarian nanites attempted to reconstruct themselves. The microscopic machines glowed faintly blue as they worked, their crystalline structures catching the light from his monitoring equipment. Behind him, Ambassador Chen and Admiral Torres watched in silence. Show them what happens next, Sarah instructed. Marcus activated the containment field's neural interface simulator. The nanites immediately changed their behavior, forming complex geometric patterns that pulsed with increasing frequency. This is what they do when they detect human neural patterns, Marcus explained, his voice tight with controlled anger. They're not just gathering data anymore. They're implementing changes, subtle ones, adjustments to serotonin levels, minor alterations to neural pathways. Nothing dramatic enough to notice immediately. Admiral Torres stepped closer to the display. How many people have these in their systems? Nearly 40% of the colonial population has received Kilarian medical treatment, Sarah answered. And that's just the beginning. Those educational modules they provided to our universities, they emit low-level quantum fields that influence decision-making, make people more agreeable, more accepting of Kilarian suggestions. The perfect conquest, Marcus added. No shots fired, no resistance. Just slowly reshape humanity until we're perfectly compliant members of their collective. The Admiral's face hardened. We need to shut this down. Warn our people. No, Sarah interrupted. We stay the course. The moment we show any sign of awareness, they'll accelerate their plans. We're not ready for open conflict yet. A holographic display activated, showing a map of human space. Scattered throughout were pulsing red dots. Kilarian cultural exchange centers, medical facilities, and educational institutions. Every one of these facilities is a potential weapon, Sarah continued. But they're also opportunities. Dr. Rivera. Marcus gestured, and the display changed, showing molecular diagrams. We've been studying their technology at the quantum level. Their machines don't just influence neural patterns, they read them, store them, and most importantly, they can be reprogrammed. By us? Torres asked. As of last week, yes. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source, a group of students at the Mars Institute of Technology. They were using modified Kilarian educational modules to study quantum computing. What they actually discovered was how to rewrite Kilarian base code. Sarah smiled. The Kilarians gave us the tools to understand their technology, assuming we'd only use it in the ways they showed us. They didn't count on human creativity or our paranoia. The display shifted again, showing a new set of data points scattered across human space, hidden research facilities, covert manufacturing plants, and encrypted quantum communication networks. Operation Echo is already in motion, Sarah explained. Every piece of Kilarian technology we accept gets analyzed, replicated, and improved upon in these facilities. Every cultural exchange gives us more insight into their psychology. Their own surveillance is feeding them exactly what we want them to see, a civilization gradually falling under their influence. And our actual technological development? Torres asked. Marcus brought up another display, this one showing designs that bore little resemblance to either human or Kilarian technology. We're taking a different path. They expect us to follow their technological evolution model. Instead, we're combining their quantum principles with approaches they'd never consider. Human intuition meeting alien logic. Sarah walked to the center of the room, her expression grave. 3 days ago, we detected a quantum transmission from their central embassy to all their facilities in human space. They're preparing to move to the next phase of their plan. They think we're ready for ascension into their collective. How long? Torres asked. 6 months, maybe less. But that works in our favor. They'll be focused on finalizing their control networks, not watching for resistance. Every neural modification they attempt, every quantum field they generate, will flow through systems we now understand better than they do. Marcus brought up one final display, a simulation showing Kilarian control signals being redirected, modified, and repurposed. When they try to activate their network, they're going to get a surprise. Humanity isn't going to be the only one changed by this process. Sarah's neural implant chimed with an incoming priority message. Ambassador Zurl is requesting an emergency meeting. Apparently, they have wonderful news about humanity's future in the collective. Admiral Torres straightened his uniform. Are we ready for this? Sarah checked the latest data from their covered quantum sensors. Across human space, millions of modified nanites waited in hibernation. Reprogrammed educational modules stood ready. And in hidden shipyards throughout the solar system, a fleet like nothing the Kilarians had ever seen was nearing completion. We've been ready since the day they arrived, she said. Humanity learned long ago that the most dangerous predators are the ones that smile while they hunt. Now it's time to show them why you should never try to outthink a species that turned paranoia into an art form. As she prepared to meet with Ambassador Zurl, Sarah sent one final encrypted command through her neural implant. Operation Echo. Final phase authorization. May they learn what humanity does to those who mistake patience for weakness. Operation Echo. The Kilarian Ascension ceremony was everything Ambassador Zurl had hoped for. A grand display of their benevolence witnessed by representatives from every human colony. The crystalline architecture of their new Unity Center on Luna gleamed under artificial sunlight, its surfaces reflecting the eager faces of the human dignitaries gathered for humanity's historic transition. What they couldn't see were the quantum pulses emanating from the building's core, signals meant to trigger the final phase of neural modification across human space. Zurl's skin rippled with satisfaction as they prepared to address the assembly. In her seat among the human delegation, Sarah Chen watched the proceedings through augmented reality overlays fed by her neural implant. Streams of data flowed across her vision, showing the status of Operation Echo across human space. A message from Dr. Rivera flashed in her peripheral vision. All systems ready. Quantum network primed for redirect. Distinguished representatives of humanity, Zurl began, their translator converting their harmonic speech into perfect Earth standard. Today marks the beginning of your species' greatest journey. The Kilarian Collective welcomes you into our unified future. Sarah noted how the other human diplomats nodded appreciatively, their expressions showing just the right mixture of awe and gratitude. 3 years of careful preparation had led to this moment. She sent a single encrypted command. Execute. Deep beneath the lunar surface, in a chamber shielded from all known forms of detection, quantum computers of human design sprang to life. They weren't copies of Kilarian technology. They were something new, born from the marriage of human intuition and alien science. As the Kilarian Ascension signal propagated through space, these systems began their work. On Mars, Dr. Rivera watched as the first phase of Operation Echo engaged. Signal intercept confirmed. He reported through the secure quantum channel. Beginning neural network override. The Kilarian signal reached the first human colonies, where billions of nanites waited in human bloodstreams. But instead of beginning their final programming sequence, they encountered something unexpected. A competing signal that spoke their language but carried very different instructions. In the Unity Center, Zerl continued their speech, unaware that everything was about to change. As is customary in the collective, we now begin the Unity Protocol, which will. They stopped mid-sentence, their iridescent skin flickering with confusion. Something was wrong. The quantum feedback from the neural modification network wasn't showing the expected patterns of compliance and integration. Is everything all right, Ambassador Zerl? Sarah asked, her voice carrying just the right note of concern. A minor technical deviation, Zerl assured her, their translator struggling to mask their growing anxiety. Nothing that will impact today's wonderful. Emergency signals began flooding in from Kilarian facilities across human space. Their carefully planted control systems were reporting impossible data. Humans weren't being pacified. Instead, the quantum network was being overwhelmed by something else, something that moved through their systems like a digital storm. Ambassador Chen, Zerl's voice had lost its melodious quality. What is happening? Sarah stood slowly, her AR display showing the success rates of Operation Echo climbing across human space. I believe, Ambassador, you're experiencing what humans call reverse engineering. Though in this case, perhaps reverse evolution would be more accurate. The Unity Center's crystalline walls began to pulse with uncontrolled energy as the quantum network backfired. Every piece of Kilarian technology that had been meant to control humanity was now serving a different purpose, broadcasting a signal of human design back to the collective itself. You see, Sarah continued, as Kilarian diplomats began receiving panicked messages from their homeworld. While you were studying us, analyzing how to best reshape our minds to fit your mold, we were learning too. Your neural modification technology showed us exactly how your species thinks, how your collective consciousness works, and most importantly, how to change it. Zerl's skin had turned a pale, sickly color. Impossible. Your species couldn't have. We monitored everything. You monitored what we wanted you to monitor, Admiral Torres said, stepping forward from among the human delegation. Every stumbling attempt to understand your technology, every grateful acceptance of your gifts, it was all carefully choreographed to feed your own preconceptions. Throughout human space, the quantum network that had been meant to enslave humanity was now spreading something else, a cascading wave of changes that flowed back through the Kilarian collective's own neural links. Not enough to control them, but enough to ensure they could never again use their technology to subjugate others. The price of underestimating humanity, Sarah said softly, is learning firsthand why we survived every challenge our world threw at us. We turned your own evolution against you, Ambassador. Your species will still be part of the collective, but the collective itself is about to experience something new, true free will. As chaos erupted in the Unity Center, with Kilarian diplomats receiving reports of unprecedented changes sweeping through their society, Sarah sent one final message through her neural implant. Operation Echo complete. Begin Phase 4. In hidden shipyards across the solar system, humanity's real technological achievements began powering up. They had learned from the Kilarians, yes, but they had gone far beyond simple imitation. The time for hiding their true capabilities was over. The age of humanity's naive acceptance of alien guidance was ending. A new era of galactic politics was about to begin, one where the youngest spacefaring race would help guide the oldest toward a future they never imagined possible. The Hidden Fleet. The Kilarian High Council chamber had never been so silent. On the massive quantum projection display, they watched as humanity revealed what had been hidden beneath their carefully crafted facade of technological dependence. From the asteroid belt emerged ships that defied Kilarian understanding, vessels that combined their quantum principles with engineering approaches the collective had never considered. Mining facilities transformed, revealing massive defense platforms. Research stations shed their civilian facades, displaying weapon systems that made the collective's most advanced artillery look primitive. Ambassador Zerl, now functioning with true individual consciousness for the first time in their species' history, addressed the Council. They never needed our technology. They were studying us, learning our weaknesses while showing us exactly what we expected to see. In Earth orbit, Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the EFS Prometheus, humanity's first quantum hybrid dreadnought. The vessel represented everything the Kilarians had failed to understand about human innovation. It wasn't just a copy of alien technology, but something entirely new. Status report from the collective border stations. Admiral Torres announced from his position beside her. Their fleet is standing down. The quantum consciousness modifications are holding. They're experiencing individual thought for the first time in 50,000 years. Sarah watched as data streamed across her neural interface, showing the reactions across Kilarian space. Their society was in upheaval, but not in the way anyone had expected. The artificial consensus that had guided their civilization was giving way to something new: genuine debate, individual perspectives, and real democracy. Director Rivera's latest analysis is coming in, Torres continued. The changes we introduced to their neural network aren't just stable, they're spreading. Other species that were under Kilarian influence are breaking free. The whole power structure of this sector is realigning. On the quantum communications display, messages were pouring in from across known space. Species that had been silent partners in the collective were reaching out, seeking dialogue with the civilization that had accomplished the impossible, not just resisting Kilarian control, but fundamentally changing it. Ambassador Chen, a communication officer, called out, "We're receiving a priority transmission from the Archean Confederacy. They're requesting immediate diplomatic contact." Sarah raised an eyebrow. The Archons had been mythical figures in galactic politics, a species so advanced they had supposedly transcended physical form. That they would break centuries of isolation to make contact now was significant. "Put them through to my private quantum link," she ordered, moving to the bridge's conference chamber. The air shimmered as an Archean representative materialized, a being of pure energy and thought. "Humanity has surprised us." The Archean's thoughts translated directly into comprehensible speech. "We had watched the Kilarian collective's expansion for millennia, unable to intervene without risking a war that would devastate the galaxy. You found another way." "We did what we had to do to protect ourselves," Sarah replied. "The fact that it helped others break free was a bonus." "You did more than that," the Archean corrected. "You proved that technological advancement and wisdom aren't always linked. The Kilarians believed their age and technology made them superior. You showed them, and us, that true evolution comes from adapting, from being willing to learn even from those you think beneath you." On the bridge's main display, more ships were emerging from hiding across human space. Not weapons of war, but vessels of exploration and discovery. The real fruits of humanity's secret technological development. They represented capabilities beyond even what the Kilarians had imagined, born from the combination of human creativity and reverse-engineered quantum science. "The galaxy is changing," the Archean continued. "The old hierarchies of technological superiority are falling. We believe humanity is uniquely positioned to help guide this transition." Sarah thought of the centuries of human history that had led to this moment. Every war, every conflict, every hard lesson learned about the price of power and the importance of wisdom in using it. "We're not interested in replacing the Kilarians as galactic overlords," she said firmly. "What we want is partnership. Real cooperation, not forced compliance. We developed our hidden fleet not to dominate, but to ensure we could never be dominated." The Archean's energy form pulsed with what seemed like approval. "Precisely why you are suited for this role. You understand the responsibility of power because you've experienced the threat of subjugation. You chose to free the Kilarians rather than destroy them, to elevate rather than suppress." Admiral Torres entered the conference chamber, his expression urgent. "Ambassador, we're detecting massive quantum disturbances throughout Kilarian space. Their society is reorganizing itself at a fundamental level. The birth of true free will is never peaceful, the Archon observed. But it is necessary. Humanity's gift to the Calarians may seem cruel in the short term, but you've given them something they lost eons ago: the chance to grow, to disagree, to evolve naturally. Sarah watched as the data continued to stream in, showing the galaxy in transformation. Operation Echo had succeeded beyond their wildest expectations, not just protecting humanity, but catalyzing a fundamental shift in galactic civilization. And now, she said quietly, comes the hard part: helping them learn to use that freedom wisely. A new order. 1 year after Operation Echo, the Grand Chamber of the new Galactic Council bore little resemblance to the sterile efficiency of the old Calarian collective. Representatives from 100 species filled the space, their voices a cacophony of genuine debate and discussion, something unthinkable under the old order. Sarah Chen stood at the podium, now serving as Earth's representative to this unprecedented gathering. Before her, former members of the collective sat alongside newly emerged independent worlds, all grappling with the challenges and opportunities of true self-determination. The past year has taught us all something profound, she began, her words translated simultaneously into dozens of languages. Power doesn't come from technological superiority or the ability to control others. It comes from the wisdom to know when not to use that power. In the front row, Ambassador Zurl nodded, their iridescent skin showing colors that would have been impossible under the old neural network. The Calarians had changed the most dramatically in the aftermath of Operation Echo. Their society, once a model of perfect consensus, had fragmented into countless philosophical and political movements. But from that chaos, something remarkable had emerged: genuine culture. Humanity's greatest strength, Sarah continued, was never our technology or our cunning. It was our understanding that true strength comes from diversity, of thought, of approach, of perspective. We resisted the collective not because we feared unity, but because we knew that real unity must come from choice, not compulsion. Dr. Rivera, seated with the Earth delegation, manipulated his neural interface to project the latest data. Across former collective space, civilizations were evolving in ways no one had predicted. Species that had been locked in artificial harmony for millennia were rediscovering their unique identities while forging genuine bonds with their neighbors. The quantum technology that was meant to enslave us became a tool for liberation, Sarah said. But technology alone isn't enough. The real challenge, the one we now face together, is learning to cope with freedom. Learning to disagree without destruction, to compete without conquest, to grow without subjugating others. Admiral Torres, now Fleet Commander of the United Earth Forces, watched from his position near the chamber's entrance. The past year had seen humanity's hidden fleet transform from a defensive necessity into something else, an interstellar rapid response force that helped maintain stability as civilizations adjusted to their new autonomy. Earth extends an offer to all worlds, Sarah announced, reaching the heart of her address. Our quantum engineering facilities, once hidden from the collective, are now open to all. Not to create dependence, but to foster genuine technological exchange. We've learned that the best innovations come not from isolation or domination, but from collaboration between different ways of thinking. The Archean representative, a shimming form of pure energy, pulsed with approval. Their kind had become partners in this grand experiment, offering guidance while respecting the younger race's right to find their own path. But technology is not our only offer, Sarah continued. We propose the establishment of the Galactic Exchange, not just for resources or scientific knowledge, but for art, philosophy, and culture. Let us learn from humanity's history. Every great renaissance, every leap forward in human development, came from the meeting and mixing of different cultures and ideas. The chamber erupted in discussion, representatives from various worlds engaging in eager debate. It was chaotic, inefficient, and sometimes contentious. Everything the collective had sought to eliminate. And it was beautiful. In orbit above the Council world, the EFSS Prometheus maintained its watch. The vessel's quantum hybrid systems had become a symbol of the new order, not because of their power, but because they represented the potential that emerged when different approaches combined in harmony. The Keylarians thought they were uplifting a primitive species, Sarah concluded. Instead, they taught us an invaluable lesson, that true civilization isn't measured by technological advancement or military might, but by the wisdom to use power responsibly. They showed us what we could become, and in return, we showed them what they have forgotten. As the session ended, Sarah received a priority message through her neural implant. New quantum signatures had been detected at the edge of known space, signs of previously unknown civilizations emerging from hiding, drawn by news of the collective's transformation. Ready for another round of diplomacy? Admiral Torres asked as they left the chamber. Sarah smiled, remembering that first meeting with the Keylarians years ago. Always. But this time, let's skip the part where we have to pretend to be primitive. The galaxy was entering an unprecedented age of discovery and cooperation. Humanity had earned its place not through conquest or subterfuge, but by demonstrating a fundamental truth. Real power lies not in the ability to control others, but in the wisdom to help them grow. In the depths of space, the hidden shipyards that had protected human independence were being transformed into centers of innovation and exchange. The weapons of last resort were being turned into tools of exploration and discovery. And in the quantum networks that once carried commands of compliance, new ideas flowed freely between worlds. The price of diplomacy had been high, but the reward was beyond measure. A galaxy where strength came from diversity, and power served wisdom rather than domination.